Welcome back to the Vault. My name is Sean Anthony Thomas, and I have with us a special guest here today. His name is Javette Nixon. I like to let people introduce themselves. So, Javette, if you would please just tell the audience who is Javette Nixon.
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. Javette Nixon is an entrepreneur. I've started a number of businesses. I'm a family person as well. And I'm an optimist. I believe in people, and I believe in Jamaica. Most people would probably know me from Vein Centers of Jamaica, but we also have other businesses, including Esther Group, which runs a peer-to-peer lending platform, as well as a venture fund. We own My Laundry Bucket, which is like a laundry service in-home that is really built around consumer convenience. And we have invested in a number of other companies, including technology firms such as First Cloud, True Shade Cosmetics, and a lot of people know me from my largest business, Point Global Marketing, which is a marketing and branding firm.
It's funny that you're in on that one, because actually I see that you have a bachelor's in political science.
Yeah.
So I would want to know, how is it that you got into marketing?
Well, I think there's a lot of overlap, I think I've always had a love for what people call the social sciences, and the political science is one of the major areas that is part of the social sciences, and so I've always been fascinated with how people organize systems and how the organizations of those systems determine how resources are used. And really, we do a similar thing in marketing. So my bachelor's degree is actually in political science with a minor in economics. And it was no, and it was really it really answering the question of, but if you're a producer or a consumer, regardless of where on the spectrum you are, how do you organize around resources? If you have a bachelor's in political science and you're in Jamaica, you either get into politics, or you figure out another line of making a living. In my case, I was fortunate in that very early in my work life, I worked in a sales and marketing environment. So I worked for First Teleservices Jamaica Limited, then Capital and Credit Merchant Bank, then Jane, through their subsidiary MC Systems, and all of those roles were really marketing oriented, and were sales oriented. So I developed a love for that. I was very successful at it as well. And
working that commission.
Right. Yeah. Some people don't do well, but I thrived in that environment. So yeah, it kind of I stayed with it, and when the opportunity arose, I took the first marketing job that I could find, and then eventually I did go on to do my master's in the international marketing. So it kind of came full circle. But I think for me is almost the same coin. It's just the paradigm that you're looking through.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. So actually, I just want to sidetrack a little bit. So knowing that in Jamaica, if you're doing political science, you're either going into politics or finding another line of business. What spawned the decision to do the political science degree?
So at the time when you're 17 years old, you're not really thinking of, you think, oh, you really just happy because you got to do university and not wasting your mother's time. Especially if you grew up the way I grew up. I grew up in St. Thomas. Almost like every other Jamaican, you from a working class family. that you never have everything you wanted, but you had enough. And you had people who love you and they wanted you to do well. And a part of doing well is going to school for a Jamaican parent. So, as far as they're concerned, you have to go to school. So for me, I wanted to do something that was not one dimensional, that would expose me to just different ways of thinking and different ways of working, because that's just my personality. I'm curious. I'm a lifelong learner. I read incessantly and always and every day. So there are only a few things that I found that I could consistently engage with and not be bored after a while. And that was political science for me, because there was a lot of work and a lot of theorists that would have looked at it from different angles. So it was really out of just a need for finding something that gave me an opportunity to constantly be learning and discovering things that other people who had an opinion on that would be different from mine. So initially, really, I wanted to do straight economics. But then I started doing econometrics and then realized that
not for you.
This is probably not for me. So I know I wanted to stay with it because I don't give up on anything. But I also wanted to do something else that would feed my passion, and that was political science. And fortunately, I had a teacher, a lecturer called Dacre Morrison, who she did a lot of work around the notion of this Browning culture that we have in Jamaica. Yeah. And I read her paper and decided to switch my major because I was just fascinated by her work. She looked at a lot about the Jamaican culture and that's why Jamaican society was organized a particular way, and some of the things that the ordinary Jamaicans thought. And like I'm a Caribbean guy through and through. I'm a Jamaican 100%. So I'm always curious about those things. So that kind of led me to that. And then fortunately I met some other people like Andre Horton, Damian Crawford during those processes, Floyd Green, all of those people were on campus with me. And it was a good time to be interested in those things. And I'm also very civic minded. I believe people should participate in the governance process. I think that's how the governance process get better. I think if we leave the governance process because we think we can't bother with it, that's where we get the worst type of people representing us. So I'm also very civic minded. So if that was an important element for me. I still believe that people should get involved. Everybody at every level should be involved in some way in their community, in politics, in your community, in your whatever, neighborhood watch, police, youth club, Kiwanis, but people should participate. Do something but be a contributor to the society that you're a part of. Too much of us are apathetic, so we really should participate. So for me, it was a way of understanding the systems that I was participating in and also participating as well.
Okay, that's cool. So with that experience of telling me that you're loving learning, and it seems with all those people you're on campus with, you're the one that got away first.
A lot of people who know me from my business side won't know this, but I did get involved in politics. I was president of the Patriots, which is the young professional arm of the PNP. I did get involved in politics. But I don't want to get involved in representational politics. I don't think that's the only way. I think people, as I said, you should do something. I don't care. I am one of those Jamaicans who have friends on both sides of the aisles who knows that People should participate. Like I don't care who you want to participate from or who you represent. Hopefully, you can represent the party that I want. but at the end of the day, that is the important thing is involvement. And if we have more people involved in the process, we have a better output. We have a better a system. A lot of the challenges can be solved if more people and if better intentioned people get involved in the process. And we lose a lot when a lot of young people especially decide that they don't want to participate in the process. Especially when the reality is we are the ones who are shaping the society that we're living in. So maybe I'm the one that got away, but I felt like I could have more impact if I was running a business as opposed to being in representation of politics. And so far that has proven to be a better bet.
Yeah, going inside.
Yeah.
So, all right, being that now and saying as you felt like building a business was the better decision for you as an individual. How was it that you got around starting Point Global?
Yeah. So I've been fortunate in that I have very good friends, and I was working for MCI Systems, which is owned by Jamaica National, and I was in charge of marketing and sales. And really, I used to go to the marketing meeting. We used to have a group-wide marketing meeting. I used to go to the marketing meetings and try to convince the wider Jane group at the time, which is not like now. This was 10 years ago, actually more than 10 years ago now, that digital was the way to go. And they would accommodate my suggestions, but not necessarily implement the digital programs that I was trying to champion. So I got a little bit frustrated by that. I remember David Mullings at the time was in charge of the e-channels for Jane. He and I would usually be the only two people in the meeting trying to get a Facebook page open and all of that. Yeah. So from there, I kind of felt like there was a lot of very good businesses, and Jamaica National is a massive business. That had massive footprints but weren't really using digital, even though Jane as a group is probably one of the most technologically advanced companies in Jamaica, owning MC Systems and a big player in Multilink as well. So a lot of the backbone infrastructure in our financial space was for Jane, but when it comes down to consumer-facing tech and digital, they weren't really embracing it as a mechanism to communicate with clients. So I finally decided that I was going to quit and start a marketing firm that did digital marketing. And I was talking to a couple of friends of mine. A friend of mine at the time had a music. He used to set up for parties and stuff like that, but he also moonlighted as a web developer. So I reached out to him, and he had a company called Uro Multimedia, Dominic Strawn, and we formed a small partnership where I would write the content, and he would do the back end work for the site. And that's how we just decided to get started. Immediately when I actually put in my resignation, I was gonna get things kicked off. I got a call and got another job offer. So it was kind of delayed for a year. And I went to EdgeChem Jamaica Limited as head of marketing and exports market. The position was actually called Special Projects Manager, but I was in charge of marketing and exports market. And the good thing about taking that job is that it allowed me to kind of test some of the theories that I had about how digital would work. And I had spent some time in the States working for a mortgage broker called Wahlberg Cepeda Lending that was using digital heavily. And I felt like a model like this would definitely work in Jamaica. And EdgeChem gave me the opportunity to kind of test out some of those things when I was there. So after being there for about half a year, I felt like I was confident in feeling that the theories that I had about digital and where it was going were correct. So I decided to just take the leap. It wasn't so smooth after the leap was taken, but but it worked out.
Small business challenges.
Yeah. At the start, people should tell you that it's going to be more difficult than you have ever thought about it, but it's also going to be more rewarding than you ever think. And I think that was my experience. Started Point Global with $400,000, which quickly disappeared after we got an office at University of Technology. Fortunately, in the Technology Innovation Center, it was a subsidized office. And then hired a part-time team member, but we never had much clients. We had like one client, and then when I quit on my first day of work, that client really had another opportunity that changed the direction of their life. So I took the leap. I never even had any clients, but fortunately, after a few months, we figured it out and started moving in a positive direction.
That's great. That's very, very. That was taking in all that risk. How old were you at the time when you did this again, by the way?
I was 23.
23. That's my age right now.
Yeah.
And you're telling me at this age you decided that no, this job is too much. I'ma leave and just start your own thing completely. Wow, that's inspiring, man. And this is what now? 10 years later now?
Well, next year I'm 38, so it's a little bit more than 10.
Oh days. Oh my bad. So where is it now? What's it like now at this stage?
Yeah,
from leaving and starting it with 0 clients and finding one and struggling for pay the next month rent when it come up and hoping say you get a one work in the month and those kind of things. Where are you? Where is it now? What's Point Global looking like today?
We've been very fortunate. We're now in 3 countries: Trinidad, Jamaica, and the US.
Massive.
We have a massive global business. We work for everybody. In Jamaica with Cinco, Jamaica Producers, CWJ Credit Union, Gen Fund, Jamaica National. You name the business, we have worked for them, and we have worked for some small business too, and really help them to transform and become big businesses and continue to employ a lot of young people who are also pursuing their own dreams. So, and fortunately, I have not had to look for another job.
No, so you're creating more
since then. So, I've been blessed. The journey has been very rewarding. It's been an amazing journey for me. Very fortunate along the way. Lots of help from lots of people who have given advice, support, who have given me a little work when they have the opportunity to get me to this point. But fortunately, they stuck with me, and we're doing okay.
That's good. That's really good to hear. And so, at what point was it now that you decided that okay, running one business is not enough? I'm gonna start another.
It wasn't really. There's not really a planned thing. So, for example, let's use like something like Vein Centers, which I actually don't really run. It's my wife's business, but Vein Centers. We were driving to Portland, and she's a doctor. She's a vascular surgeon. And I was just listening to them talk about her and her. Also, we have a business partner, about what they were doing. And this is a service that was not available in Jamaica. And I'm an entrepreneurial person. My inclination is to say, why? And how can we get it here? And so a lot of times things happen like that. That took on a life of its own. Vein Centers is now one of the largest vascular practices in the Caribbean. really a phenomenal group of people doing so much. They have 2 locations, one in Montego Bay and one in Kingston, and really pioneering work in minimal invasive vascular procedures. So some of it is things like that. You're just in the right place at the right time. For example, for our consumer facing business, for the laundry service, a friend of mine in Florida called me, and she was like, all these apartment buildings that are going up in Kingston, do all of them have in-house laundries? And we just started to just kind of check on that, and we decided that we thought it was a good business to launch. It was early stage in the pandemic, and we decided to pull the trigger on it. A company like Esther Ventures, again, in a very organic way, we do a lot of work for emerging businesses, a lot of entrepreneurs that just come to with an idea. Tricom pepper sauce is one that always come to mind. And when I go in the supermarket and I see our bottles now, I'm so proud of it. So we have a lot of businesses like that. And some of the time they come for marketing help, but then you realize that the business is undercapitalized, and they need funding support. And we try as a company, as a marketing company, while we're hired to do marketing, we're really business consultants. So we tend to want to try and solve the other little issues that we identify. So in solving those issues, we decided that, you know what, we get exposed to so much good businesses that could benefit from a little capital and some expertise. We should launch a VC to help these businesses. So it is really things like that you, in the natural progression of businesses, you see other opportunities and ideas, and other ways of advancing. There's Mark Zuckerberg he had a commencement speech at Harvard, and I think my favorite line of the speech is, your ideas don't come out fully formed. Like, you get started and then it mushroom into something else, and somebody says something and you get something else from it, and then somebody adds something to it, and then 5 years down the road, who knows, you have something that worked. Something, and a lot of my businesses have been like that. It's somebody just saying something, and then an interest kind of grows from there. We just launched our peer-to-peer lending platform through Esther Group recently, and it was the same thing. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Everybody is locked down. I was in lockdown. A good friend of mine who worked for many years as head of business development at Point Global, who is also a very, very good friend of mine, literally just called me. We're FaceTiming, and we got to talking about money and loans and investing, because he had just bought a car, and we're just discussing that, and he was expressing to me that, some of the decisions that he made when he was younger, and that how it impacted his financial well-being. It was the same for me. I started a business when I was in my early 20s. Like, that's the definition of with no money. So that's clearly on the way. You kind of, the ability to kind of capitalize and grow your business have a real effect on your business. Unfortunately, for me, my businesses are fairly successful, but some people are not so fortunate. So we're talking about that, and we felt like the lending model that was existing in the Jamaican space, one, never rewarded young people for how difficult it is to navigate the financial landscape in Jamaica. And two, never had alternative investment opportunities for people who were more savvy investors. And something like Esther, peer-to-peer, we could solve it. And I run an agency. We have a robust technology team. We have people who build products every day for other people. And we felt that we had the ability to leverage and build. So we decided to take on the risk. And I think a lot of businesses start like that. you have an idea. It might not be fully formed, but you know that it can become something, and it can grow from there. And if you stay with it long enough, it turns into something. Steve Jobs has another quote. He says, "You can't connect the dots going forward. You can only connect them going backwards." So you can make sense of things when you're looking behind you, but if you're looking in front of you and trying to make sense of the things that you're building, sometimes you can't really always connect those dots, and you have to also just believe that you're building something that's worthwhile building, because you're going to have plenty of opportunity. If people don't talk about failure stories in Jamaica, but a business is hard to run. A business is about managing money. It's about managing people. It's about managing resources. And if you don't, even if you're not even physically doing the work, the mental pressure of running a business in a challenging and a competitive environment can be quite debilitating for a lot of people. So you have to really just be convinced that you're doing something that is worthwhile doing. And when you have the days that you don't want to get out of bed, that will get you out of bed.
Fair. Tough it out anyways, and make sure you see through the plan and achieve the goal.
Exactly.
I love that. So tell me a little bit more. You touched on Vincent of Jamaica and how it started out of just a conversation in the car, and you with your entrepreneurial self jumped on that and said, let's do that. But I know you went on to win the NCB Capital Quest with it. So tell me about what was that experience like.
Yeah. So again, not my idea. my wife and her business partner at the time got an invitation from NCB to participate in the competition. They felt that I was, for everybody who was involved, I was probably the better one to articulate the vision for what we wanted to achieve. And fortunately, Vincent as a business is something I've always handled the marketing. So I even though I'm not a doctor, I was able to articulate what we did in a way that other people could find accessible, and really demonstrate that the solid business that it is, and that's the winning of that competition is a signal for the strength of a business like that, and the fact that really great ideas can come from anywhere, and you can turn those great ideas into business. That process was amazing for us. It exposed vein centers to a lot of Jamaica that was at the time not aware of what we did. You're on TV every week for 6 weeks, so there's a lot of people who watched that and was cheering, and I'd go on the road and people would see me and they call me Dr. Nixon, even I'm not a doctor, and come to me with their medical issues. But it gave us also a lot of exposure for the brand, a lot of exposure for the business. So really is a testament to the work that is done by Dr. Bart Moose and Dr. Hilary Brown and in the building of the brand.
That's good. A very interesting experience there. So I want to touch on another experience again. The Young Leaders of the Americas.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so if you grow up in a Jamaican environment, you hear a lot of times about links and who you know and who you don't know and stuff like that. But there's a global platform of opportunities that a lot of young people can get access to. If you just spend some time and watch a little less YouTube video and research and stuff like that, there's a lot more opportunities. There are scholarships, there's professional fellowships, there's a number of programs. The Obama, when Barack Obama, when he was president of the US, launched what he called the Young Leaders Program. It started out with the Young Leaders of Africa, and then they went to Asia, and then it came to the Americas. And what it allowed is for young persons that were either civic leaders or business leaders in 52 countries. to participate in a fellowship where they were placed with a US based business that was similar to what they were trying to build and benefit from mentorship and access. And when Obama was here announcing the program, that's when I learned about it. And I really wasn't even thinking about applying at the time, but a friend of mine sent me an email to say, hey, I thought this program would be good for you. Today is the last day of the application. So they wanted to apply. And I started going through the application, and this application is not a simple application. It's a whole day, even though it was just like questions after questions after questions. And it's quite a rigorous process. It took me the whole day to kind of finish the application and submitted it. And then I heard that at the time, I think I don't remember the exact number, but it was a lot of Jamaicans who had applied. I think they had some 300 applicants. So I was fortunate to be one of the 8 people from Jamaica that was selected. I was placed in Dallas, Texas, with a company called Matchfire, who was run by Brian Powell, who Brian and I are now business partners. Years on, we just launched Purpose Works Collective, which is a $45 million purpose-built collective of marketing agencies that are working across 20 odd countries and really trying to do impact, to target marketing for impact. And that came directly through the Wildlife program and my participation in that program. So in a real way, like many other things that I have been fortunate, is just really being at the right place at the right time, and not doubting your ability to execute and to do it, and just kind of going for it. And I think that's a reflection of everybody who participated in the Wildlife program there. So I met so much tremendous people as a result of that program that I've been able to collaborate with, work with, who have mentored me. So it is really a testament to what is out there when you just take a chance and go for it.
That's great. So what I'm gathering is you just like to take a bunch of risks. you just jump out there.
No, I know. So if you run a business, by starting a business, you have taken on risk. But I've said no to a lot to be able to run a business. And the key is to evaluate which is a good risk and which is a bad risk. And I think every decision kind of hinges on that. The ability to evaluate what is a good risk and what is a bad risk. Sometimes we don't realize that we take a lot of bad risk. Where you're in your early 20s, you decide, I start working, I want to buy a car. I'm going to buy the most expensive car that I can buy. That's a bad risk, because you're taking on a financial obligation that is going to commit you to and those are mistakes that I made, and a lot of young people make, because we're not educated about the value of assets versus liabilities. Businesses are assets if they're run properly, and like a lot of things, when it comes down to compound interest, you might not, year one, you might not make any money. Year 2, you might not make any money. Year 3, you might not. Year 5, 6, 7, 8, you might not make any money. But year 10, in an incremental way, something happens and it transforms your life, and you can 10x that, and by 10xing that, it opens opportunities. And so for me, yes, starting a business is a risk, and putting yourself out there for something like NCB Capital Quest is a risk, or Young Leaders of the Americas is a risk. But I believe in backing myself, and fortunately, there's only one opinion that is enough to sway me, and that's my mother's. If she says, Javette, go for it, then the shell.
Yeah, that's it. Don't know. I'm the same way. My mother is that kind of person. She supports me through everything. She always, when I was younger, she was like, Sean, if you want to turn a garbage collector, I'll
Yeah.
support you. Just be the best garbage collector you can be. And I was like, all right. I mean, it does give you a kind of confidence to go out and take on a little additional risk or push yourself and say, can I really do it? Because they're always saying, yeah, we think you can do it. So
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate what you're saying in that.
Yeah,
Talk to me about, Go ahead.
I grew up also in a very entrepreneurial family. Certainly on my mother's side, my grandparents, my grandfather was a farmer. My grandmother ran a community shop. They were business people. Nobody on my mother's side of my family, I have ever seen them work for anybody but themselves. So in a way, maybe to onlook as it was a risk, but to me it was a way of life, because that was a reflection of what my grandparents were doing, and what my mother was doing. What my father is a little bit different and had a 9-to-5 job. My biggest influence was my mother, and she was always a business person, always an entrepreneur. I used to come home from school and help her check up her change and count money and stuff like that. And that's kind of so for me it was a way of life. And I think her investment in my education made me a lot better prepared than maybe she was or my grandparents was for kind of a global success. But they were the foundation. They were the ones. They were the blueprint. I am the imitation. So in a way, I had really good examples that I could borrow and kind of. And I always knew that if it don't work out, I'll just go back home to St. Thomas and.
Oh, no, that's fair too. You know that there's something back there. Can't complain. So the Esther Group now, I have a particular interest in. So the Esther Group has 2 companies in it. That's correct?
Yeah. Yes,
All right.
that's correct.
So talk to me about Esther Finance first, and tell me, how did Esther Finance get started?
Right. So Esther Finance is a peer-to-peer lending platform. We classify ourselves as an advisor firm, and we advise lenders who are peer lenders like you and me, who may have a little cash. You have an extra $100,000, extra $25,000 that you want to earn some money on. And a big way of earning is to loan that money out to somebody who needs that money, and they pay you an interest on that money. So we really are arranged for those type of transactions through our platform. And it came about because we saw a space where there were retail investors who were sophisticated investors. These people put money in the Jamaica Stock Exchange. They put money in a lot of other investment, but they never benefited from the quality of the returns, particularly when they had their money in like an investment in a traditional securities broker. They didn't benefit from that, and inflation eat out the money. And sometimes their money, they're so small that they're not seen as investable people. Well, we felt that was not the case, and we felt that with technologies that were emerging like blockchain that allowed for contracts online to be done in a very secure way and through a ledger, and with tools that were emerging to verify people's identity online and map geographic location and use social grafting to kind of figure out risk. That we were in a position to bring a solution to the retail market, that anybody who was interested in benefiting from interest income would have access to interest income in the same way that a bank has access to interest income. That's really what Esther Finance is about, is giving retail investors the ability to fund loans and benefit directly from the interest rates that the borrower pays for those loans. Esta Finance doesn't benefit from the interest rate. We charge a processing fee for arranging the transaction, and that's how we make money. But the investors directly benefit from the interest that is paid by the borrower without any skimming of the top like the bank. The banks do when they lend out your money, because that's what they are doing, your money. And as well, we're doing the same kind of due diligence that they would do to qualify a loan. So I spent 5 years in my early life as a loan officer, a corporate loan officer. So I was assessing credit and issuing credit. When I was a student at UWI, I was managing a loan portfolio for insurance premium financing loan of over $300 million for an institution that I was working with. So that gave me an insight into how credit assessment was working. And this is now close to 20 years on. The technology has significantly improved. Unfortunately, I was in a space where through Point Global, we have a massive and talented team that can immediately work on a technology project like that. So we really build a lot of the due diligence processes that some of the larger financial institutions were using, but also using new age technology like smart contracting through ID verification online, through software technology, as well as every other tool that we could use to kind of analyze risk and give that benefit to the peer lenders who wanted to participate in the market, and the peer borrowers who wanted and need, but in some cases were disadvantaged, either that because they didn't have a strong credit history, maybe they never had borrowed before, or because they might have had a loan that they weren't perfect in paying, and the banks penalize them for that. So it's really a solution that is a human solution. It's a solution of you as a peer. When somebody says, I am going to university and I like to get $100,000 to pay for my school fee, somebody who has been in that position, like I have been in that position, being able to say, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on this person and lend them the $100,000, and then and that person honoring that obligation and paying back that loan through our management of it at Esta Finance and managing the relationship. But it's really connecting people who want to participate in the financial space and make a return on their funds.
What's the take-up been like on that platform, that peer-to-peer lending platform?
Tremendous. We have been surprised by the response. We thought, we're gonna roll out this thing. It's going to take us years to build, and we're going to take years to attract customers, and we're going to take years to do this. And it's phenomenal. The growth of the platform. Right now, we're actually trying to pop brakes and to slow down the number of people who are daily coming onto their platform and signing up and calling and participating. And it's just been a tremendous response from the general community. When we initially announced the program, we had 250 people a day signing up, which is for an online business, that's on par with what other platform companies in the US is doing. And we feel confident that within the next 3 to 5 years that we have an opportunity to be competing not just with financial institutions in a Jamaican environment, but we're building a global platform in the same way where Point Global is a multi-country company. and serving people in different geographic location. I'd personally be very, very disappointed if that wasn't the same for Esther. There's a tremendous amount of work to be done to build everything that we want to build. But we're confident that with things like the mobile wallets that has been announced by BOJ, and with the help of all of the businesses that we have been working on, and the regulators that we have been working with, that will have a tremendous impact on our ability to kind of reach the market. And we feel like we'll be able to serve a user base of approximately 300,000 people in the next 3 years. And our uptick and our take up is a reflection of that. And it's, again, to say that there are ways to, the big issue in Jamaica is trust. How do you trust that you're lending to a person who's going to repay? But if you know the emergence of technology and things like your cell phone that you walk around every day with, there are a lot of data points that you can use to kind of assess credit and reach people and figure out what's happening in a real way, and if they are actually borrowing for a worthwhile purpose. And when I look at the loans that are funded on Esther, 99.99% of them are business loans. It's a guy in Whole Harbour making couches. It's a teacher who is trying to monetize a workbook. It's a taxi guy who's trying to make sure that he licenses his car. It's a person who is trying to do a short course to upskill. Those are the loans that are being funded. So I feel, one, tremendously proud of the platform itself, and I feel tremendous that it has been able to impact people in the way that it has been able to impact people in such a short period of time.
That's amazing, man. I know you say you're trying to pump the brakes, but please, if you would just tell people where they can get access to that for those who are interested.
So it's if you see at the bottom of the screen, Esther Group Co. If you put that in, you'll go to our Instagram page, but you can also go to www.esterfinance.com or www.estergroupco. And if you go Esther Group Co, you will see a lot of information on our venture capital business. And Esther Finance, you will see a lot of information on the process in a very easy to read way about the peer-to-peer lending platform. And when I say we're pumping brakes, I don't mean, if you want sign up, we're welcoming anybody who wants to participate in the platform. But sometimes if you don't get any immediate response, we have a small team and we're working through a lot of applications. And we do have to pre-qualify the application before we send them to our lenders. So give us some time to do that. We launch in August. And we every day we're adding so much persons who are interested in participating in the platform. So just when I say we're pumping brakes, just it's not necessarily pumping brake, but giving.
I didn't mean to imply that. I figured it's a volume thing. You wanted to upscale something, right?
Yes.
No, man. But as you touched on the venture capital, of course, this is 876 Invest. So tell us a bit more about that side, the venture capital side of the thing. Why venture capital, and how did you get involved with it? I know you said that it was through your exposure with some small businesses.
Yeah. So one, we at Point Global, we see a lot of small businesses. 90% of our work is with small businesses. So somebody will come to us and say, hey, I have this idea. Can you guys help me figure out how to get started? Can you design a label, launching a sauce company, launching a water company, doing a tour company? Can you help me build a website? Can you help me figure out how to launch my Facebook page properly? Those are a lot of the things that we deal with Point Global. Majority of our work are with small businesses, emerging businesses. And and we love that, because those businesses turn into big businesses. And they tend to remember that we helped along the way. And that's kind of the secret to our sustainability as well at Point Global. But we saw a lot of those businesses that weren't in a position to immediately access a lot of the services that we wanted them to offer access. And that was predominantly because they didn't have capital. As a part of the program, a good friend of mine from the DR was seeing the same thing in the DR. He died shortly after we started Esther Ventures, but it was really between it was really between myself, him, and Bart Moose, who was an investor, who is an investor in Vein Centers of Jamaica, and also an early investor in Esther Finance. So Aristides, who is from the DR, myself and Bart felt that we had an opportunity to create a VC to just look specifically at some of the projects that we were looking at Point Global that were ready for funding. And we felt that there was also, in the Jamaican environment, there's some information asymmetries that exist, where information flow, but it don't flow to everybody in the same way. And we felt like there were lots of businesses that were investable, but they probably never went to the UA, or they probably never grew up in Kingston and St. Andrew, or they probably never know the right people, so they never really got a seat at the table and a say. And we felt like, as a guy who came from St. Thomas, as a guy who got a lot of opportunities from a lot of people along the way to build a business and to be successful, I wanted the other guy who was, in the country working on him thing and needed funding and somebody to take him seriously, even if he never had everything figured out, to have a place to come. And that's kind of what we have tried to build. We're not necessarily trying to compete with everybody. We're a boutique firm. We have funded 1, 2, 3, 5 projects since we started 5 years ago. So we are very selective in the projects that we fund. But we really believe that if we do it properly, and we have a compound effect, and we have successful exits, which fortunately so far we have had strong performances from the companies that have been funded, that down the road we'll be able to fund 10 and to fund 20 and to fund 30. And we believe in incrementalism, believe that ideas don't come out fully formed, and you connect the dots. And that's, for us, is what our venture capital business is. Again, like our peer-to-peer business, it's human to human. It's two people around a table discussing an idea and figuring out whether or not there are synergies, and really attacking it as a team. So we're not only providing funding, we match any funding that we provide with access to the expertise of Point Global, the expertise of our partners that help us to run Point Global. Because to run a company like Point Global, you have tons of people behind the scene that are doing like data security and setting IT infrastructure and making sure that our accounting is done, and filing this and filing that. And it really takes a village. So if you're a small business owner, you don't realize how much of a village it takes. You can't work on your business and in your business. And that's what prevents a lot of companies from growing. If you're working in your business, you don't have the ability to step back and really dream and soak up energy and look at the sunset and become inspired to go back and tackle it the next day. You're really going to be, especially if you're a small business, you're going to be run to a frazzle. You're not going to be able to scale. You're going to be stuck in what I call the artisan trap, which is what we have a lot of those businesses in Jamaica. You have a guy who makes furniture, and if you make a couch, him rich, but when the couch drop off and no other business come, him poor again. So it really takes a village. It takes a lot of people. Like if when I think about the number of stakeholders Point Global has that make Point Global run, we have partners in Trinidad that deal with our accounting and our tax filing and our business development, and we have partners in the US that do the same, and in Jamaica that do the same, and we have our staff, and we have our HR partners, and we have our accounting people, and then we have legal people to navigate everything that we're doing from our accounting side and all of that. So it really takes a lot to scale and run a successful business and access capital. And if you want to do it well, you can't do it alone. You have to empower people and bring people on the team and lead and cheerlead and give up control of some things and don't know what is happening sometimes, but trust that you are doing it properly. And in our case, that's what we have been able to do. Fortunately, we are a private held business, so we can take some chances that maybe some publicly held businesses don't take. But for us, we believe that at the end of the day, if we can positively impact a number of businesses, then we whether we make money or not is really a byproduct of the impact that we want to have. And really, all of my businesses are built around it. It's around serving the underserved and building for impact. Like, money is important, but money is a byproduct of doing passionate work. Like, it's not the other way around. If you can be, I say your mother say you just be the best garbage man, and I can guarantee you, if you are the best garbage man, you make money. Like that, some people don't seem to recognize that excellence is what money follows. Money follows excellence. Excellence in anything makes money. If you are a chef, if you are a painter, if you are a runner, if you are a business person, cultivate excellence. Excellence is what it is all like. That money chases that because and especially smart money chases that because smart money knows that excellence is how money is multiplied. My wife has a saying that the best predictor of future success is past success. So really just chase excellence. Even if you do it excellently, people will recognize that excellence and will invest in that. And for me, I've always just trying to work that way. Even when I was an employee, I was telling you just before we were on the call about my days as a sales rep. I was the best, and when I'm doing something that is small or big, my goal is simple. I want to do it in the best way possible. I want to excel at it. I want to ensure that I give it my 100%. And if I give it my 100%, the outcomes are always good outcomes.
I feel that. All right, so talk to me a little bit about the process that you have for investing in a company through the ventures. I know you can't give me all the details and 100%, but I find venture capital and private equity is not often talked about in Jamaica. So if you could just shed a little light.
So in venture capital and private equity, we have to actually make the distinction between the two. The Jamaica actually has a robust private equity market. The problem with private equity in Jamaica is that it's not for small people, right? So if you see all of the what they classify as sophisticated investors get access to a lot of private equity deals in Jamaica all the time. But venture capital is different. Venture capital is usually very, very high risk, and traditionally Jamaican landscape has stayed away from that. For us, as I say, we're small, we're a boutique firm. We're not trying to catch everybody or every company. And usually when we are at a point where we're saying that we want to invest in a company, we have a lot of information about that company because that company would have come through the Point Global process. So a lot of the companies that we eventually end up investing in are companies that we have some access to through the Point Global ecosystem. And usually these investments for us are not big investments. So a lot of people think you need to have a massive amount of money to do venture capital investment. But the truth is, look at Point Global. Point Global started with $400,000. That is the fact is, a lot of companies just need a little bit of money to kind of get them started and build out an MVP, and then they and formulate some kind of a structure and some corporate governance, and then they're on the right path. So for us, we're looking for companies that we think we can add value to outside of funding, because the thing that we have most of is a network, and a network of business people that we're working with that help our business succeed, and we can plug them into as well. But beyond that, there's the due diligence process for venture capital. The most important thing is capital preservation. So you don't want to lose your money, especially in a Jamaican environment. Jamaica is not like the US, with a massive VC ecosystem with billions of dollars at stake that they can take big losses. So losses for us can wipe out our fund. So capital preservation is number one. So we want to make sure that the intensity of the investor, the intensity of the entrepreneur is the same intensity that we have, that they're passionate about the project, that they're going to work hard, that they're willing to bootstrap, that they know that is going to be the most difficult thing that they will ever do, but it's also going to be the most rewarding thing that they will ever do. And that for us is how we evaluate the processes. We usually are looking at 7 areas when we invest. We're looking at your pricing model. We're looking at your MVP or your business model. We're looking at value creation. We're looking at the entrepreneur and what they have done in the past. Have you ever started anything? Have you failed at anything? Have you ever led people? How do you build a tribe? Those are some of the things that we're looking at. And we look how you take on criticism and mentorship and advice, because those things will be critical. Some people are so tied to their ideas that even if they're not working, they want to drown with the idea. And those you have to look at those fatal flaws that kill businesses. You must be firm on the destination, but flexible on the route that you're going to take. So you have to kind of look for those kind of traits, and those are the kind of things that we look for. Your overall financial management, and how do you manage your finances, and we don't mean that you need to have no big accounting firm or anything, but are you keeping records? Are you tracking your sales? Are you doing just a fundamental thing, bookkeeping, those kind of things? And if those things are in place and we think we can help you, and we'll do everything in our powers, even if we don't invest. I give out so much free advice every day. Like that's actually my number one job. my number one job is giving advice. People just call me and say, hey, just today, like somebody called me randomly and said the dial the office number, and everybody's off. So the number is forwarded to one of my cell phones, and fortunately I picked up the phone, and the person said, I'm sorry, I didn't really expect to speak to you. And I was like, no man, and we can talk, it's okay. And she was like, no, but you're the CEO, aren't you? And I'm like, no, but it's okay, talk to me. And we sat down, and she was surprised that I was answering the phone, and she was surprised that she got me. But I sat down and I talked to her, and she's doing something amazing. She's trying to build a STEM school, and she's looking for advice on how she should access funding. And it's not a project that we can immediately fund based on how she's doing it, but we could point her into people who could assist, and how she could access some grants and support. And I think that's kind of right now, that's my job. That's what I do. And sometimes, and I do it freely and without hesitation. And these things pay back in the long run. People, like, there are other times that people will stop me and say, "Yo, Javette, I met you somewhere and we talked for a little bit and it changed something and I'm happy and I'm there." You know, it's as a matter of fact, my chief product guy at Esther was like, "Yo, he met me once in a parking lot in New Kingston at Pegasus, and I told him about my business story and that inspired him to take up IT and to start coding and stuff like that. And when he saw the opportunity to work for Esther and to apply for the job that he was able to do, he was like, "Yo, he has to do it." So it pays dividend. It comes around. It comes back. So not everything is always about money and about, you know, what you can get. Some just giving people free advice and pointing somebody and connecting people and being a lightning rod for an idea is a tremendous way to help people succeed. And if you can do that, who knows?
Perfect. That's amazing, bro. So, all right. So we're kind of bringing it to a close. I'm just going to ask you a few questions about Jamaica as a person who invests. So, what do you think can be done to improve the local environment for businesses?
A
Both
lot.
from government and other private things, like you say, more venture capital could be a good thing. Private equity access being freed up to people. I mean, other things like that, as well as policy-wise, what could be done?
I think that for me, one of the first thing that needs to be done. I don't think any business that is making less than $30 million a year should pay taxes.
Here.
I think those businesses are small businesses. I think those businesses are struggling already to keep a footing. And what should be created is incentives to ensure that those businesses succeed. I think when you tax a business that is making less than $30,000, and by the way, I'm not the only one who says this. There's a very influential report that I think was authored by Joseph Mathalan that said that businesses that are making less than $30 million a year had difficulty withholding GCT and often ran into problems because they're called on to withhold GCT. So that's one of the first things that on the government side that we can do. I think the other side that we can do is that there are certain regulations that are in the US that could be incorporated in a Jamaican environment. For example, the US has a regulation that governs how banks operate in communities, and basically indicate that banks have to put aside some of their profits to invest directly back into the community through the various arms and community-based initiatives. And I think something like that would be tremendous for the Jamaican environment. When you look at the profitability of larger commercial banks in Jamaica, on the backs of the Jamaican people, yes, they are providing a very, very needed service. Banking is important. Banking is how people transmit and transfer money. But there's also, I think banking is such an important element of the process in the economy that it should have a bigger impact. Certainly at the community level, I think even if 1% of bank's profits were asked to be set aside to invest directly in a venture capital way, that would be something that would be transformative for the Jamaican space, and would have a massive impact. I think also I know that the current Minister of Finance has taken some steps to doing this, but we have pension fund regulations in Jamaica. The largest the people who have the most money in Jamaica are the pension funds, and those pension funds has to put their money. And they're restricted. So if you restrict the persons with the largest pools of money to invest in productive assets, then you have a problem. So those are some things that we can look at. The other thing that is massive is our financial education landscape. We don't invest, like your program is, more of this should be encouraged. Everybody, financial literacy should be taught in schools. I never knew about I did business all through high school. I did A levels, POB, and economics, right? And you learn certain things, but I never learned about investing in stocks until I started working at a bank, a merchant bank. I was studying political science and economics at the University of the West Indies, and I didn't learn about investing in stocks until I was working at a bank. So those are some of the things that we have people who are working people who don't understand how the stock market works or what the stock market represents or how to invest in the stock market. And I even go further to say I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine, and he asked me, what percentage of the Jamaica market is actually investing in the stock market. And it's a very tiny percent of the population are investing at all. And when it comes down to active investors, that's even lower. And I don't mean active investors from the institutional level, because I'm talking about active retail investors. We see what retail investors are doing in the US, changing policies, changing how hedge funds operate. You need active retail investors to ensure market operate in the way that they should operate, because active retail investors look for value investments. So the fact is, those are some of the things that we really need to address in a real way. Access to things like the stock exchange is something that, like a person who is in high school should be able to do a course that explains to them how a stock market works and how an exchange works and stuff like that. So yeah, for me, those are some of the immediate things that I would want to see happen.
I feel that, and that is one of our goals here at 876 Invest, is to, as you say, spread the financial literacy, because we also believe wholeheartedly that everybody should have the knowledge and the understanding of how money works and how you generate more of it, and the impact that investing can have on your life. Especially with money erosion. As we were even talking before we started recording, I was saying, like, inflation and how even in the best situations, people getting 5% and 7% pay rises, but we're looking at 7 and 8% inflation for the year. So you're not even netting out any better, and the bank's not helping it. So I wholeheartedly agree on that financial literacy point as well. I agree with all the points, but of course that's the strongest point for 876 Invest. But Javette, I thank you so much for giving us so much of your time and allowing us to do this interview here. I really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. Continue plugging away at it. We need these type of things happening more in Jamaica. This is how Jamaica will become the epicenter for finance in the Caribbean, which I think we're well on the way to becoming. I'm sure that Jamaica will be the financial capital of the Caribbean in a massive way if we continue to grow and invest in our communities and in education. So thank you for the platform, and I hope that somebody listening or watching would have benefited from it.